This is Kardec Radio bringing you the talk. The dynamics of our sixth sense, psychic and mediumistic phenomena in the light of Spiritism, given by Divaldo P. Franco, Brazilian medium and speaker. This partial audio recording will cover Chapter 7, B, the role model of mediumship. Enjoy. Chico took me and 3 other men to a room. We were 5 men in this room. I sat down right next to the exit door. There was only one window, and it was closed. He turned off the light. Chico leaned over a table and asked that I begin praying to God, asking for help. I began to pray with great pain. Less than 5 minutes later, I heard a woman's voice that spoke to me in a very complicated form of Portuguese. "Divaldo, open your mouth," with a German accent. I then opened my mouth. "Now open your eyes." I opened my eyes. I was in shock. Right before me I saw a 16-year-old blonde woman dressed in white, smiling, and she said, "My name is Sheila." I looked at her and I saw Chico, Javier, the 3 friends, and myself. The light brightness that came from her was as if she was made of light. I was amazed. I said, "Sheila." She responded, "I died in Germany in 1942, in the city of Hamburg, during the war. I was invited by Dr. Bezerra de Menezes, who is one of the spirit guides of Brazil, to work with the Brazilians," again with a heavy German accent. She added, "You will get well right now." I began to cry. "Open your mouth wide." She produced something that looked like a pen with a little light at the edge. It was 1955. We still didn't have ballpoint pens at that time. She said, "This is going to hurt a lot," with a heavy German accent. I closed my eyes and she placed the instrument in my mouth. As she placed the instrument into my mouth, it would bend because it was moldable. I heard a noise coming from it. I screamed so loud that it could have woken up the city. She then pulled out the instrument and asked, "It was painful, wasn't it?" I replied, "Yes." Worse than death. Men have no tolerance for pain. Only women can tolerate pain. If men were to give birth, humanity would cease. Men would only give birth once. Then she said, "I am going to do it again." I was crying. Tears were falling. She did it again. It was really painful. She pulled it out. When she pulled out, she said, "And now?" I said, "I am well." I could speak again. I was amazed, like a stooge. I then said, "My sister, my doctor will not believe this. Even I will not believe this. Tomorrow I'm going to think of this as a hallucination. I'm going to ask you to give me something material that I can keep." She asked me, "What would you like?" I replied, "Since you lived in Germany, you probably were in the Alps at one point." And she said, "Yes, that is true. I would like an Edelweiss flower. I haven't seen an Edelweiss flower, and I would like to see one, because a friend of mine tells me all the time that the Edelweiss is a very beautiful flower." I had not even finished speaking, and she, with her hands up, let fall on my lap violets from the Alps, the Edelweiss. I opened up a handkerchief and said, "That is enough." They were still moist, and then she asked, "Anything else?" I said, "Yes, madam." Since she was offering, I asked. She then asked me again, "What do you want?" "Please ask God to have mercy on me and help me so that I may serve better and more often." And she said, I will ask him." She went away and we finished the meeting. I was in ecstasy for about a month. Up to this date, I still have those violets and the Edelweiss. When I had the opportunity to visit Switzerland, I went to the Alps to be able to witness firsthand the Edelweiss. I removed some, and I took them back with me so I could check one against the other. Because we Spiritists, we do believe, but we are not dumb. We don't just believe for the sake of believing. Allan Kardec taught us that the true faith is the only one that can face reason face to face throughout humanity. We must seek real facts, so this may be a rational faith. If a medium fools me, it will not interfere with my faith, because he or she is the liar. But mediumship does exist. You can only make a bad copy of something that really exists. So, St. John the Evangelist used to say, "Examine if the spirits come from God, to make sure that they are the messengers of truth." When I refer to Chico Javier, I talk about him because I grew up around him for 42 years. I slept at his house, I had lunch with him at his table. I lived with the person, not just the medium. He sold over 25 million copies of books and never took in any money for that. He would say, "Those were not my books. They are the spirits. Since they are not going to earn anything, I have no right to get anything from them either." He worked for 35 years as a clerk. He retired like everyone else to live from his retirement. It is the proposal of free mediumship according to Jesus' gospel. Following his example, I also worked for 35 years as a public servant, dedicating all my evenings to the practice of mediumship, without receiving anything for it, just for the pleasure of loving. Love and goodness have no price. What price would I pay Chico Javier for returning my health? Everything that happened 52 years later was thanks to that moment. There is no price. The price is really love. That is why we, spiritists and spiritualists, should strive to remove the words that separate people. We are all brothers in this ideal of goodness. We should hug each other and work for a better world, each of us with our own characteristics. The fingers in a hand were born at the same time, but they are all different. In the difference is where you find the harmony. If they were all the same, they wouldn't be able to pick up things. Also, in this difference in dimensions, in sizes, is where we find the balance. So then, the small differences should never separate us. The most important thing is that we were invited by love to serve the world.